Hi, this is Jen, and welcome to another episode of My Autoimmune Path. So, on this episode, I want to discuss some things that can help lessen the load. So, what do I mean by that? Well, if your body is having a hard time, if your body is in a sense on the struggle bus and fighting itself, these are things that I have found that work for me to help lessen the load in just an overall sense, so that your body doesn't feel just constantly attacked by sort of extraneous things and things in your environment. You know, our bodies, a lot of times when we're in a flare-up, can really feel like we're, and possibly be, in sort of like fight or flight. And that has to do with our nervous system and everything, of course. But if you're in fight or flight, then sort of everything out there is going to feel like a threat. And so if you're already struggling with, a flare-up, like I said, then there are things that we can do just to kind of bring a little bit more calm and peace to our bodies and just to our overall system. So anyway, let's get started. Number one, and these are not in any particular order of importance. They're just 5 things. So number one would be about your water. You want good quality water. So the main thing about this that I would say is to filter your water somehow, or possibly purchase some good quality water. A number of years ago, and this is just an example from my story, because this is my autoimmune path. And I don't remember exactly how many years ago. It was probably around 10 years ago. I began to have just some terrible skin issues. And it was on the tops of my hands, and then on my legs, kind of in that shin area. It was little red bumps, and they were itchy. And then on my shin, just be these like real kind of large patches of red and just itchy, and oh my goodness, it was brutal. And it just went on and on. I tried everything I could think of, every kind of lotion, potion, anything. I even was using sulfur soap to bathe with, to shower with. And look, if you've never been around sulfur or sulfur soap, I think we probably all smelled it somewhere out in the environment. We lived in Texas for a little while, out in the western part of the state, where there were a lot of oil fields and pump jacks and whatnot. And sometimes when you would drive through those areas, the sulfur would have been coming up from the drilling, and oh my goodness, it's so strong that literally there were times when it would just make your eyes tear up. So it's not a great smell. And I was coming out of the shower smelling like sulfur. Oh, that was really blowed my self-esteem. It's not something you want to smell like, but that helped a little, but it's not even that much. I had tried everything. Finally, my husband and I thought about getting a shower filter. And so we ordered a really good quality one. I would say it probably cost about $60 or $70. So yeah, not cheap. But my husband put that on our shower for us. And I'm telling you what, in about 2 or 3 weeks, my skin was so much better. And eventually all of that went away. And it has come back one other time. I have no idea what it is. I don't know if it's some kind of detox thing. Maybe when my liver was overloaded or something. I don't know. But getting that shower filter helped tremendously. We lived in a city where it was kind of like, there were a lot of suburb cities, but this kind of main city, they were known for not having great water quality. Things were always happening, like maybe a giant water main would break, and then it would compromise the water quality, and the city would be on a boil water alert and things like that. And so, who knows? It might have been some kind of a bacteria, a parasite that was in some of that water. Possibly could have just been something like the fluoride or the chlorine irritating my skin. I do not know. But I do know that filtering that water made a huge difference for me. So we've really continued to have shower filters on any of our showers since that point. The ones that we have on right now are not quite as fancy or expensive as what we were using a number of years ago, but we just buy them at the big box store. You can buy a unit and then buy replacement filters for it. So we changed it out probably about once every 6 months, and that I just feel like is a good thing. Now, also wanted to discuss the water that we cook with and drink. So, we do what we can, right? You start with what you can, and we're probably not in an ideal situation at the moment, but we're renting, and we have a refrigerator that does have a water filter in it, and they come and change it out every once in a while. We get the little alert on the front of the fridge, like there'll be a little button or something that lights up that says, that the filter needs changing. But anyway, we use that water. It has the thing on the front of the refrigerator where it dispenses ice and it dispenses water. And so we will usually get some kind of a pitcher or something, like if we're going to do cooking. We're not on a grain diet right now, but let's just say 6 months ago, before we started all this, if we were going to cook pasta or rice, we'd get, some kind of pitcher and dispense a bunch of that refrigerator water and cook with that. So we really don't use our tap water for hardly anything except just like washing our hands or washing our clothes. But anyway, they do sell whole house water filters, and they can be somewhat expensive. And I would think rightly so, but they're going to run you probably in the neighborhood of about $1,500 to maybe $1,800. And if you can afford that, then I would think that's a great thing. But at the very least, have some filters in place. Even if all you can do is just have one of those pitchers in your fridge that filters your water, it's probably better than nothing. So, good clean water. Now, finally, as far as our drinking water, again, it's not ideal. It's a process, and this is what we have right now. And hopefully it won't be, all that we can do, in the future. But we do subscribe to a water delivery service, and we order spring water. And I know for a fact it has no fluoride in it. That doesn't come out of the ground naturally. Some of their other water products do have fluoride, but we specifically ordered the spring water. We used to rent a cooler from the delivery service, or that company, and that was fine. It was a top loader dispenser. It can be a little bit difficult because you have to flip the bottle over, and then it's gravity fed. But then that one broke. I mean, it just started leaking one night all over our floor, and so we had to call our delivery guy and say, hey, our dispensers failed, and can you bring us a new one? And so what they brought was a different style, which in a lot of ways is kind of nice, but it just didn't work for us. So the concept is that instead of having to flip that giant 5-gallon bottle upside down, to be gravity fed, the bottle just goes into the bottom of the unit, and then you put this little kind of hose pipe thing down in the top of that 5-gallon bottle, and then the unit will pull water up into sort of, I guess, like a cavity or a bladder, and store it there, and then dispense it out from there. Problem is with that is, at least for us, and this may not be for everybody, but I could taste it. I could taste the plastic. I guess when it was sitting in that kind of cavity or bladder there, I mean, it's probably a plastic one, and so it just absorbed the taste and the flavor of that. So we tried that for, I don't know, maybe about a month. I just said, I cannot tolerate this anymore. I just feel like I'm drinking plastic. And so it was in the fall of last year, and I told my husband, I said, I would like to do something different. And if it has to be part of my Christmas present, that's fine. So we did some research and found that there are these ceramic, and we had actually seen these before, but we didn't know really where you ordered them. So anyway, but we got it off of Amazon. It's a ceramic dispenser. You do have to flip the bottle up, upside down. And I can't do it. So my husband is usually the one to do it. But it's ceramic, and it has a little metal kind of dispenser at the bottom. And if you have room in your kitchen or wherever, you can just set it on the counter. We don't. We have a small kitchen right now, and so they actually sold sort of like a wooden stand or base to set it on, which we got, and it works great. It works great. Now, I realize that water is in plastic. It is supposed to be a BPA-free plastic, and let's hope so. But I'm doing what I can, at least that the bulk of the water is stored most of the time in the ceramic. And ceramic is great. It does not give off, flavors and taste and all that. So I know there's a lot of different kinds of water filtration systems out there. There's the ones that are stainless steel, that you would just take your own tap water and pour it through, and it filters out. That may be something that we invest in the future. You may have that. Please share if you enjoy that style, and if it works really well for you. I'd be interested to know. I do have a couple of friends that have those, and they like them. I'm just not sure exactly how we could fit that into our daily routine. To me, it seems like it would be a constant thing of having to refill it, and maybe that's okay. But anyway, that is my number one: is filter your water, have good, clean water to drink, to bathe in, and to cook with. All right, number two is get good sleep. And right, I mean, that's just kind of common sense, isn't it? But it is so important when we have autoimmune disease. I mean, it's so important just for everyone, but it just gives you a baseline, because I mean, that's where your body can repair and heal and recover from the day. And especially if you're dealing with autoimmune, you just need that. And so try to do some things, and they call it good sleep hygiene. I first heard that term sleep hygiene probably about 10 or 12 years ago. And I remember thinking, what is that? It's a lot more common nowadays, but it just means a good nightly routine. It means getting to bed on time. It means sleeping in a dark room. You know, if you live in an area where maybe there's a lot of noise right outside your windows, or a lot of light, maybe there's neon lights, well, try to get some blackout curtains, you know. I have to confess, when we moved into this space where we're living now, my body was just in this phase where I was having to get up several times in the night to go to the restroom. And I just wasn't, I was sleeping well when I slept, but I wasn't sleeping really long hours. Like, I was waking up fairly early in the morning as well. I left the bathroom light on at night. I went through this phase where we just left it on at night for a while, probably for about a year. And it was just because I didn't want to trip and fall when I got up. And sure, I guess I could have bought some kind of little night light or something. Eventually, I thought, you know, that's just not, I don't need to be doing that anymore, you know. And thankfully, my sleep has kind of changed over the year. I sleep much more soundly and hardly get up in the night anymore. But really, it's probably not the best for people. You know, you just need a dark room and a quiet room. And even if you had to, like, you know, use one of those sleep masks, I've got a really nice one that I ordered from Etsy. It's made from, I think it's like a mulberry silk or something like that. Very good quality. A lot of times, you know, I guess I pull it off in the night and I find it like thrown over on the bed or on the floor or something. So it doesn't always work that great for me, but you may be able to tolerate it just fine. But anyway, another thing that's helped me with the whole getting to sleep and staying asleep is magnesium. You know, magnesium's everywhere these days, right? But so magnesium glycinate is a good form. It just kind of helps you chill and relax and helps your muscles. Also, don't forget that something like an Epsom salt bath is really beneficial to helping you sleep. Like, I mean, if you're a parent, we all know that you give the baby a bath at night and they just, I don't know, they're just ready for bed and sleep very soundly, you know. So we can just kind of apply that to being a grown-up. And the Epsom salts are a type of magnesium. They are actually magnesium sulfate. And so, again, it's just going to kind of relax your muscles and just calm your nervous system down. You know, it's just relaxing. And so those things have been really, really helpful for me, and I'm thankful. All right, number 3. And this kind of goes along with sleeping, but it's not the same. And it's rest. So if you have an autoimmune disease, you are going to have to rest. Now, sometimes you may be forced to rest if you're in a flare-up. But even if you aren't, doesn't mean you should just go. You do not want to go until you sort of hit the wall, right? I mean, that's just not the best. I learned to rest and just learned about rest from my mother, who had an autoimmune disease of her own. I've mentioned before that she had rheumatoid arthritis. And so she was bedbound a lot. and probably rested about 50 or 60% of her day. So that was a very kind of normal thing in our household. And so I learned how to rest from her. That's the dog. She's whining. Oh, me. And my mom learned about rest from her mother, who also had rheumatoid arthritis, ironically. And so it's never been this difficult thing. I mean, yes, sometimes it's hard to fit it in, but that whole concept has just come very naturally to me. You know, I guess I'm thankful for that. And also remember that rest is not just physical, but it's spiritual and mental and emotional. And it might look different ways, right? It's not always just laying on the bed. It's maybe sitting out on the back porch, on the screened porch, and listening to the birds, right? Or getting in a recliner and, hey, listening to a YouTube episode or something. But whatever it is, have it be a non-stressing environment. You don't want to like turn on the news or something, you know. That's just going to potentially raise your cortisol or raise your blood pressure or something. You know, you just want it to be calm and peaceful and soothing. Also, along the lines of rest, remember what God commands. He says to remember the Sabbath and keep it, right? So whenever your Sabbath is, it might start on a Friday evening and it might be on a Sunday. But whenever it is, remember to keep it. And God doesn't tell us to do that just to give us something to do. He knows that we needed a command there because sometimes we just need to stop, right? We need to lay down our work and just rest. So, anything that God tells us to do, it's for our betterment, right? It's because He cares about us. And so if He tells us specifically to have a day of rest, then you know that it's what we need and we need to follow through. Okay, number 4 is sunshine. I'm a sunshine girl. I just feel happy in the sunshine. I always have. I remember as a kid, one of my very, very favorite things was to go to the pool on a summer's day. Thankfully, we lived in a neighborhood where we had a neighborhood pool, and we were members of it, you know, because we were members of the neighborhood. And oh my goodness, it was just so much fun, you know. And I just think about how good for me that was, and just all the vitamin D that my body was able to make, and just, I don't know, the exercise, the physical exercise too. Some people, you know, they may actually prefer sort of maybe a cloudy day or a rainy day. And sure, there's something to be said for curling up, you know, on the couch with a blanket and maybe a cup of coffee and reading a book on a cozy day like that. But give me sunshine most of the time, right? There's just something healing about it, you know. And again, I'm not saying like go out and get a sunburn or, you know, be out there too long. I mean, yeah, there's UV rays and things. Moderation's the key, just small amounts. But I mean, even if you're sitting on a screened-in porch, you know, you're going to get a certain amount of sun. And there's a lot of talk about these glasses that block the blue light. Well, that's because it's sort of like bad blue light from all these devices that we're on all the time. But the good blue light is the blue light from the sun, or well, from the sky, right? And so that can be beneficial. Anyway, sun, it's just, I don't know. I mean, we wouldn't be here. We couldn't live on this earth without the sun. So just don't forget to get out and get some sunlight. You know, maybe not in the heat of the day or when the sun is in, you know, the peak of the sky, but get it in small amounts and in healthy ways. All right, number 5. This is a little bit more diet related, but cut down on sugars and grains. Everybody knows that we don't need to eat too much sugar, but how it can really come into play when you have an inflammatory bowel disease is that it can just make your body be too inflamed, you know, and specifically it can feed the bad bacteria in your gut. Now, you say, oh, I don't have any bad bacteria. Well, I think we probably all have some good and some bad, some that's beneficial and some that's, you know, that could work against us very easily. And it can overgrow if we're taking in too much sugar. So you don't want that to happen because it can really affect your microbiome and throw things off balance, and aggravate your inflammatory bowel condition. So I've cut way back. We went back to eating grain-free probably about 2 or 3 months ago. Been a really good experience. Feel much better, much healthier. And look, it's not easy. I mean, I'm not exactly a sugar addict, but I'll tell you, I love me some sweet tea. And I've mentioned that I live in the deep South, and there's just hardly anything better than a well-brewed glass of sweet tea. I mean, my mom, she used to joke that sweet tea was literally like her favorite food group. And I mean, I would have to agree. It's so good, especially with like a little bit of mint in there, like some spearmint leaves, and or if you prefer lemon, you know. But I have actually peeled back and switched for the most part to unsweet, and I have to say I don't really enjoy it, but I know it's much better for me. I don't always drink the unsweet, but I have cut way back, and I feel good about that. And that's just one swap, right? Just start with making some kind of a swap here and there. I mean, our daughter, she switched to unsweet tea when she was in the 9th grade, and like lost a ton of weight just doing that. So, you know, not necessarily even for the weight angle, but just for your gut health. The less sugar we're consuming, it's probably the better. And it's been a good thing for me to cut back. And then being off the grain, you know, grains are, I guess, you know, I mean, being carbohydrates, they're sort of complex sugars. But then the thing about grains is they are very heavily sprayed. And unless, you know, you have access to maybe some really pure organic grains, but even still, sometimes organic are sprayed. They may not be sprayed with as toxic of a chemical as the non-organic, but they spray some drying agents and things on crops to help them with the harvest and all. So those chemicals, you know, they end up in your body, they end up in your gut, and it might not be the best thing. I'm not saying there's a direct correlation, but in looking at lessening the load, why not pull that out, right? It's been a very big help for me at times when I've eaten grain free. So Anyway, those are 5 things that can help lessen the load. This is not medical advice, and I'm not telling you to do it, but I am sharing that those are things that I have personally done, and they have really, really helped me. So if you feel led to try any of those, great, and I hope that they help you. All right, thanks so much for watching, and if you would do me a favor and like and subscribe. All right, see you later. Bye.